in response to the digital transformation, companies are taking one of the following three typical strategies. Let's have a look at the three different strategies the companies are pursuing. According to the Professor Sunil Gupta, he is the professor from Harvard Business School, and in his article of Run the Real Digital Transformation, he emphasized that the companies are taking either one of those three typical strategies. The first strategy the companies are taking is that saving the costs and improve the efficiencies of the existing operations, facing the challenges of the digital transformations. So, for example, many banks are closing the offline branches and they move to the online mobile banking services. So for them, moving to mobile banking services are one of the ways to adopting the digital transformation, because nowadays a lot of people do not have to go to the offline branches, so it's more convenient to use the online banking services through their mobile devices. So spending a lot of investments and resources in building the mobile banking services as their channels to the services is the digital transformation from many banks' point of view. Okay, so saving the cost and improving the efficiencies of the existing operations. That's one of the strategies the companies are pursuing. But that's something very passive strategies in pursuing the digital transformations. In the case of the banks, their major the business model and how the companies are operating are the same. So they do not change anything about their the way of doing the businesses. They simply try to improve the efficiencies of the existing way of doing the businesses. So they don't change anything about their business models. So it's a passive way because they do not change anything fundamentally in the current operating systems. Okay? And then the second way of achieving the pursuing the digital transformation of the companies is that conducting several experiments. Since digital technologies are uncertain to succeed and the future is unpredictable without real changes in the existing businesses. So in the second strategies, they do not. It's the same as the first strategy in that they do not make any real changes in the existing businesses. So without changing anything fundamentally in the existing businesses, they simply do some of the experiments, like adding something, hiring some department or hiring some staff and creating some department which is not affecting fundamentally to the existing businesses. Why do they do such an experiments? Because they think digital technologies are uncertain to succeed at this point, and the future is unpredictable. So that's why they try to take some experiments instead of changing their core operation fundamentally. If you pursue this strategy, that may not bring any fundamental changes or any significant effect to the business of your company. Okay, so what's the next? The final strategy the companies are taking in the pursuit of the digital transformation is that big companies are difficult to transform due to bureaucracy. So instead, they organize a new department with new hires and send them to Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is the symbol of the new economy. A lot of new startups are doing the business around the Silicon Valleys. So in order for them to incorporate the digital transformation, they simply hire new people, and then they simply create a new department, and then send them to the Silicon Valleys. So if you pursue the digital transformation in that way, it's more important to make the real changes in the existing businesses. Okay, so all three are some of the typical strategies the companies are taking, but all of them are not making the real impact to the business, to the way of doing the business of the companies in the digital transformations. So in digital transformation, new strategy is required. All three strategies are not recommended in response to the digital transformation. Instead, it's better for you to take fundamentally new strategies in digital transformations. That means redefine your new businesses but maintain the existing core competencies. So in terms of creating and delivering your values to the customers, try to redefine your business entirely different from the existing businesses. But in terms of core competencies, you have to try to retain the existing core competencies as much as possible. Okay, so I emphasize two things. In terms of the way you are doing the businesses, try to restructure it fundamentally. But my second point is that you have to retain and apply the existing core competencies of your businesses into your new businesses. Okay. So to redefine your new business, you should do the following 4 things at the same time. First one is reimagine your business. Number 2, reevaluate your value chain. Number 3, reconnect with your customers. Number 4, rebuild your organization. That means you have to change your current businesses fundamentally. So it should start from reimagining your businesses. Okay, in pursuing the digital transformation, first you have to reimagine your businesses. What could be the scope of your businesses? So in the era of the digital transformation, the scope among the industries are really vague. The traditional definition of the industry is collapsing, so it's better for you to re-scope the business area of yours. And also in terms of the business model, you have to think differently. So as I have emphasized before, making innovation in the business model may bring a huge opportunities of yours. And then also in terms of the leveraging the platforms, think about what kind of the platforms you will use, whether you will create a new platform or you can leverage the existing platform. So everything is related to reimagining and then redefining your businesses fundamentally. So it may like doing the business is fundamentally different from the existing businesses. And then second thing you have to do in building the new strategies in digital transformation, re-evaluation of your value chains. As I have mentioned, the term of the value chain is from Michael Porter's. So value chain means by definition the various activities or the steps of the company's operation in creating or delivering the values. The purpose of the company's existence is to create and deliver the value to the customers. So in creating the values, the company should take a lot of different steps, from purchasing the raw materials, conducting researches and development activities, and some operations in manufacturing and delivering the products, and using the Omni Channels. Omni Channels is deploying lots of different channels to meet the customers. Like in some cases you meet the customers at the store, in other cases you meet the customers through the internet, or you can meet the customers through the telephone channels. So regardless of the channels you are meeting with the customers, the message you want to deliver to the customers and the input or the voices of the customers should be collected effectively through any of the channels you deployed. So that's the concept of the Omni Channels. So in creating and delivering the values, you have to reevaluate your value chain entirely, and then what could be one of the most important activities you might focus on in digital transformations. And third element you have to do in pursuing the new strategies in digital transformation is that reconnecting with your customers. So in terms of the acquiring, engaging, and measuring the success of relationship with the customers, you have to think again from zero basis and about your customers. Who could be your target customers in digital transformation era, and what could be the fundamental changes in their needs and wants in digital transformation areas, and how do you want to serve those fundamental changes of the customer needs and wants in digital transformation. So those are the things we have to think about in terms of the reconnecting with your customers. And then finally, after you are doing three things, which I have already mentioned, you also have to rebuild your organization. So what could be the transition from existing organization to the new organization? What could be how do you want to design differently to change your organizations? And what could be the core skills you want which are required in rebuilding the organizations, things like that. So those are the 4 steps you have to think about in pursuing in developing strategies in digital transformations. So at the center of those 4 activities, there are the digital leadership required. So the essence of the digital transformation is the digital leadership. So you take a leadership to transform your company into a totally different and new company in digital transformation. And digital leadership is required. And in re-evaluating your value chains and reconnecting with your customers, those are the things that might strengthen the core business of yours. And if you rebuild your entire organization and reimagine your businesses, that means that may build for the future of your companies. So in essence, the new strategy in the digital transformation may not simply making the efficiencies from the existing operations of the businesses, or taking some experiments, or having a new department without changing anything fundamentally in the existing businesses. Those are not the right ways in pursuing the strategies in the digital transformation. The new way of pursuing the digital transformation requires redefining your entire businesses. Okay, but at the same time, you have to maintain the core competencies of your existing businesses. Even though you are restructuring your organization and taking a totally different approaches in digital transformation, but something you have to cherish is your core competencies in your existing businesses. As I have talked in my previous lecture about the core competencies, those are the competencies you might have from your 4 different types of the resources. Physical, either it could be the physical resources, or financial resources, human resources, or the intangible resources. Out of a lot of those resources, the core competencies might be something valuable and something very rare, and that's something very difficult for your competitors to imitate. And finally, the core competency of your organization is very specific to your own organization, so it might be very difficult for the other organizations to try to have. So if you identified the core competencies of your existing businesses, let's try to leverage those core competencies in building new strategies in the digital transformations. Okay, instead of trying to build new core competencies from scratches. So try to leverage your existing core competencies in the new businesses.